Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer.
I first met Mickey and his gorgeous bride Donna at an In-N-Out Burger. Harry was with me. I swear to God. Okay, it was before we moved to LA. I'm sure they don't remember it. Why would they remember it? Because we were just people in an In-N-Out Burger. It was about 9 years ago. Gabe was working at Leno at the time, and it was the day that Mickey found out that that the radio station was making a switch to Jack FM, and it was like the next day or something. And we sat, and Gabe was in the process of getting from Leno. So anyway, we sat and we ended up having lunch. Basically, we were at the next table, Mickey and Donna. You don't remember? Why should you remember? But me and the kids and Gabe, and we talked to you through the whole lunch. And if that is not, I was like, I have to move to LA. This is the land of wonder. Oh my God, you do meet your heroes in an In-N-Out Burger. Oh my God. And so then the next time, I don't know if those of you who weren't on Facebook, but in 2009, I went to NAMM, and I had been asked to shoot the NAMM Jam, and I got to go to the rehearsal, and Mickey sang. I was literally this far from him, and he sang Full Tilt Boogie. It's on my Facebook. Please go and watch it. Give me some love. And I mean, like as if he was performing for 100,000 people, and there were 12 of us in the room. And the sound is distorted because it was this little crappy camera, but you get Mick. It was amazing. And then he performed at the NAMM Jam, and he was and it was fantastic. And then I got to go to the Greek and see the Monkees. and as I said, Wendy, Donna, and I like triple teamed them to try, because I've been writing, I was writing to Mickey for like the last 2 years, asking him if he would do this, and he was always, in fact, I asked him once if it was Donna writing me back, because he's so lovely. He was so well mannered, and he had like really nice grammar, and he was really polite, and he wrote really nice to me, and I was like, is this Donna? And he invited me to come to London to see Hairspray. Anyway, we're going to get to all of that, but I have had nothing but incredible experiences. Okay. I first saw Mickey on Circus Boy, and I was 3. And he was 8, I don't know how old he was. He was the cutest. For those of you that are too young to know, go on the interweb and find it. He was blonde. I know that's really hard to believe. Like white blonde hair and the cutest smile. And he looks exactly the same as he did then, but he was blonde and so adorable. Okay. And then he was on Peyton Place and Mr. Novak. And I never missed either of those shows. I used to watch it with the contrast down low so my mother wouldn't know that I was watching TV. What was like a 9-year-old girl doing watching Peyton Place? I love that show. And Mr. Novak, James Franciscus, do you remember Mr. Novak? Yeah. Okay. So Mickey started out as an actor. In 1965, he was one of 400 applicants who responded to a trade ad announcing auditions for a new TV show about a rock band. Mickey auditioned for the Monkees, playing Johnny B. Good, and the rest is history. The Monkees' debut single, The Last Train to Clarksville, featured Mickey on lead vocals, and I just want to say, I love Davy Jones, and all due respect, and I have lots of Davy stories. Thank God I booked him in But you, for me, were the leading man of the Monkees and should have been the front man of that band, because when you were on, that band rocked. I played another song for my kids. I played I'm a Believer for my kids. I was like, because they know Shrek, and then I played another song, which I won't say, and they were like, oh, this is like a song for little kids, because that was pop music. But when you played, it rocked. Okay. And I always liked the Bad Boys, and you were the one on my wall. But anyway. Okay, so it hit the charts on September 10th, 1966, and rocketed to #1. 2 days later, the television show debuted on NBC to great success. They were the Marx Brothers of our generation. They were hysterical. And so the Monkees were on for a couple of years, and then they had their own feature film, Head, 1968. Did you see Head? If you didn't, go get it. Go see it, yes. And it was co-written by a young Jack Nicholson. How crazy is that? Yeah. The Monkees achieved their greatest success as recording artists, selling in excess of 65 million albums.
Oh my God.
They were our Beatles. They were our Beatles, right? In 1977, Micky flew to London to star in Harry Nilsson's West End musical, The Point, always an actor. He planned to stay 3 months, but remained for 12 years. Coming full circle, Nilsson's Remember is the title song of Micky's new CD. And what do we do in the break, ladies?
Buy CDs!
And buy CDs and books. We get them signed. What do we do?
Take pictures.
Buy CDs. We get the pictures, we buy CDs. Okay. And it's a fantastic CD. And if you, for the, remember to remember. Yes. Okay, that's the name of it. Okay. During that time, Micky honed his behind-the-scenes camera skills, which he practiced by directing several episodes of The Monkees. Did you know that? Yes, he did. He was a director and producer for the BBC and London Weekend Television. Fred Willard told me just a couple of weeks ago that Micky had told him at a party years ago that you had done a version of Fernwood Tonight in London, which I want to hear about. That's crazy. I can't even imagine another Martin Mull and Fred Willard. That's just... Anyway, for those of you who all remember that, yeah, okay. Micky also directed a short feature film, The Box, written by Michael Palin and Terry Jones. Hello, Monty Python. And helmed numerous music videos. In 1986, MTV broadcast episodes of The Monkees Show and exposed a whole new generation to monkey mania. Micky and Peter Tork recorded new live tracks for their single, That Was Then, This Is Now, and it became their first top 20 record since 1968. At one point in 1987, there were 7 Monkees albums on Billboard's top 200 charts. In 1986, the Monkees again joined together, this time for a 30-year reunion tour around America. The response was so great that they toured again the following year, this time finishing up in England. When Micky returned to the States, he went out on the road with the National Touring Company of Grease. Always the actor. Micky then accepted the lead role in a Canadian production of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And in 2004, he starred in Elton John's Broadway musical, Aida. In 1993, Micky's autobiography, I'm a Believer, My Life of Monkees, Music and Madness, was released. In addition to writing, Micky has divided his time between acting, The Drew Carey Show, Days of Our Lives, and General Hospital, directing Boy Meets World and Pacific Blue, and touring with his own band featuring his sister, Coco Dolenz. In 2005, Micky was also on WCBS-FM as an on-air personality and released his first children's book, which he's going to read to us from, as well as Micky Dolenz Rock and Rollin' Trivia. He also appeared in the revival of Pippin and in Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. He was featured in VH1's recent documentary, for those of you who haven't seen it, Monterey Pop at 40. It's fantastic. I was Facebooking it. I will again. Micky began 2010 with a run in the West End production of the play Hairspray, playing the character of Wilbur Turnblad. Have they filmed it? Have they videoed it? Are we going to get to see you? Well, I hope you'll do it again here. Micky's album, King for a Day, was a tribute of songs of Carole King's, and it was released in 2010. Micky, Davey, and Peter regrouped for a world tour in 2011, spanning the US and England, and the group garnered some of their best reviews ever. He spent the summer of 2012 on a series of solo shows with his band as part of the Happy Together tour with our own Howard Kalin and Mitch Weissman. Where is he? I can't believe he's not here. Okay. He also recorded a live album at B.B. King's in New York that I can't wait to hear. I'm looking forward to that. And he toured just a few months ago with Peter and our own Michael Nesmith. Yes, he's ours. We are monkey blessed. And we had Christian Nesmith in our living room just, 2 months ago. So fantastic. Anyway, I am overwhelmed, feeling incredibly blessed, thrilled beyond words will ever describe, to say, ladies, please welcome Micky Dolenz. Yeah!
I feel like I'm on the Santa Monica Pier. In a minute I'll be passing the hat. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Vicki, wherever you are, where do you go? Oh, there you go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've never done a reading before.
Wow.
Because, I can't read. Never learned how.
It's the first time for everything.
I'm going to read the first. Sorry?
First time for everything.
Yeah, first time. I'm going to have to lose the cool glasses now and put on the readers. I'm afraid.
We're all there with you.
Yeah. That's good. So the first thing I'm going to do is read a little excerpt, half a chapter from this book that Vicki mentioned. It's called "I'm a Believer." A very clever title. I wanted to call it "Elephants, Monkeys, and Me," but the publisher said, "No, we got to go with money." So they called it "I'm a Believer." It's okay. I call it my unauthorized autobiography. I'm suing myself. And this chapter, I wrote this. I was not in a great state of mind at the time. I had just gone through a divorce, and so some of it's a little bit kind of, I don't want to say depressing, but a little bit of it is not as joyful as it might have been. But I was going through a pretty bad time. But it's pretty accurate in many ways, and it's only like half an autobiography because it stops just in the early '90s, and a lot of stuff has happened then. So I was thinking about doing part 2, but this is just kind of the, it starts out with when I was a little kid and growing up in the business. My parents were both in the business, so I kind of followed in my mother and my father's footsteps. My first screen test, I was 6, actually. Wow. There's a picture in here of somewhere of me doing that screen test. Actually, I have some prenatal work coming out on ultrasound. It's also available there in the lobby with the CDs and the book. So please check it out at the break, because there's nothing worse than a celebrity going home with a trunk full of unsold CDs. It's very embarrassing. So this is chapter 5. This is the chapter about the monkey audition, about how that all came about for me, only speaking for myself, of course. But there's a couple of references here that I have to mention, because when I get to them in the chapter, you need to know. I'll mention Micky and the One-Nighters. Micky and the One-Nighters was the band that I was in just before the Monkees. About a year, maybe less, before the audition for the Monkees. I was a cover band. We would go around and cover tunes. And I got fired from that band. They couldn't afford a lead singer. One of the only times I ever got fired in my life. And it was just after we had played at a bowling alley cocktail lounge in Crenshaw. And I was heartbroken. The other thing you need to know is, well, she mentioned, I did a series called Circus Boy as Mickey Braddock. That was my stage name. And I had a pet elephant named Bimbo. That you need to know that, Circus Boy. And also, before I played guitar, the first instrument I played was piano. My father, who was old school from Italy, I'm first generation Italian, he had insisted that I take piano lessons. But being old school, a little traditional and kind of stern, if I didn't rehearse the piano, he would spank me. So just remember that for later reference. So this chapter is called The Magical Monkey Machine. It starts out with a quote by Edgar Allan Poe from El Dorado. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight in sunshine and in shadow had journeyed long, singing a song in search of El Dorado. I actually wrote that. I gave that to Edgar Allan. He didn't give me credit. He was kind of spaced out. It's been documented to death how the Beatles and the British invasion in general altered forever the music, art, style, fashion, and socio-political worldview of a generation. But to a kid on the streets of LA, circa 1964, it was simply, man, are those guys cool. The Beatles smoked cigarettes, drank, lounged around like wise old soldiers, and exuded an air of extraordinary sophistication compared to the teen beat, Surf City, Presley, pelvic, folky-wokey influences that had dominated the American music and fashion scenes for a decade. That's pretty good. That gritty, streetwise sophistication came primarily from the fact that the Beatles had grown up in what was essentially a ghetto, post-war Liverpool. Like almost everyone else, I too scrambled to jump onto the British bandwagon. I became a major Beatle fan and remain one to this day. I threw away my can of Aquanet and my J. Sebring styling brush. I relegated the sharkskin suits to the hall closet and exchanged all my worn-out adjectives like boss and hip for the new improved fab and gear. By 1965, the music, television, and film industries in Hollywood and New York were trying desperately to capture the essence of and capitalize on the burgeoning youth scene. Basically, they wanted to coax as many dollar bills out of those tight little jeans as they could. During late 64 and early 65, I was up for a number of TV pilots that were trying to emulate the teen scene. Most were extremely lame. You could tell that they'd been conceived of and developed by some fat cat sitting at the top of a glass tower, smoking a cigar and pronouncing, "Let's do a show the kids will like." There was one show in development about a folk group like Peter, Paul, and Mary, another about a Beach Boys type surfing group, and yet another styled after the new Christy Minstrels. Each one was as grim as the next. And then there was this one show called The Monkees. The Monkees was different right from the get-go. That's because the guys that had put it together, Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider, were very different from the traditional TV producers. They were young, hip, and irreverent, unheard of characteristics for TV producers of the time, but just the right stuff for potential purveyors of the new pop subculture. Bob had created the folk music show Hootenanny and had directed the TV series The Greatest Show on Earth. He was being touted as the new hot, if somewhat hard to work with, filmmaker. Bert's father was Abe Schneider, the president of Columbia Pictures, the company that owned Screen Gems. Screen Gems was the production company that produced the Monkees. What a coinkydink. You would have to ask them what their perspective was on all this, but from my point of view, here were a couple of guys that were simply trying to get what was really happening on the streets, onto the national television screens, and not, incidentally, of course, make a fortune. That's often been said that the Monkees were America's answer to the Beatles. Nothing actually could be further from the truth, in all respect. That would be like saying Star Trek was Hollywood's answer to NASA's space program. No matter what's been said or contended, The Monkees was a TV show about a group, an imaginary group, about all the thousands of groups that were budding up around the States at the time, playing in nightclubs, living in one-room hovels, subsisting on Hostess Twinkies and chili dogs. The Monkees was more about Mickey and the One-Nighters than it was the Beatles. But there was even more to it than that. Funnily enough, it was John Lennon who, when asked about the Monkees-Beatle comparison, said, "I like the Monkees, they're like the Marx Brothers." That's a terrible accent. He was absolutely right. The Monkees were the Marx Brothers with long hair and music. Now, I never saw the now infamous open casting call classified ad that Bob and Bert placed in the local showbiz trade papers. I had an agent who read about the casting call and the breakdowns, casting update published daily. Of course, as I had somewhat of a track record already, circus boy, I didn't go to the cattle call, heaven forbid. I had a private audition. Cut to exterior Columbia Pictures Day. Mickey pulls up to the studio gate in his VW Bug. The guard at the gate approaches the car. Guard, may I? Oh, hey, Mickey, how you doing, kid? Mickey recognizes the guard as the same one who was guarding this particular gate when he and his mom arrived for the circus boy interview nearly 10 years ago to the day. Wow. Mickey, hi, can I park in here? Guard, hey, sure, Mick. Say, how's the elephant? Mickey, he died. Mickey parks the car and enters the producer building. Cut to interior producer's building day. Mickey gets a script from the secretary, sits down in a small office lobby. There are 3 or 4 other guys also waiting. He recognizes a couple of them from other recent interviews. Secretary, Mickey Braddock? Mickey, yes. They will see you now. Mickey goes through to an inner office and is immediately struck by the unconventional ambience. First of all, the place is a mess. There are magazines scattered everywhere, a half-eaten pizza lies on the floor, and stacks of used coffee cups are piled up on the desk. This kind of looks like my apartment, thinks Mickey to himself. He also notices this strange smell, kind of like burning weeds. Which I had never smelled before. Mickey expects to see an older man in a gray suit sitting behind a desk. Instead, he sees 2 guys lounging on a couch. They're in their 30s, wearing jeans and t-shirts, and their hair is longer than his. Mickey is slightly taken aback, but recovers quickly. Some little voice inside him says, "This is different. This is cool. Go for it." It's been a couple of seconds since he entered the room, and not a word has been spoken. They're checking him out. Mickey walks right up to the desk, takes a coffee cup from one of the stacks, and deftly places it on the desk. Mickey, checkmate. Fade out. I must have done the right thing because they laughed and the interview breezed by after that. Bob and Bert asked all the typical questions, but in a delightfully refreshing way, and I read a few scenes from the script, then I left. A few weeks later, I got a call back. This time the interview was more extensive, and I read more scenes from the pilot script. The character names in the early script were something like Biff, Dickie, Fred, and Suds. Then they told me that they wanted me to do a screen test. I left the building that day on a real high. Something told me that this could be big. I usually didn't get too excited on these interviews, but I definitely remember thinking, I really want this one. Now, if you want to go get the book, this is where there's a bunch of very cool pictures. Circus Boy and my parents and the screen test and all kinds of stuff, and me and like Paul McCartney and other things here. And then we'll cut down to here. One day I got it's about the interview process, and then one day I got the call. I'd been chosen to do the pilot. Now you might think I would have gone ape, excuse the pun, but I took it quite calmly. I knew after all that a pilot was just a pilot, and that dozens of pilots went unsold every year. As a footnote here, I was in architectural drafting school at Trade Tech. Studying to be an architect when I got the pilot audition. I didn't even quit school to do after the pilot. I waited till they sold the joke. It was a long way from a pilot deal to a network sale, so I would just hang in there and hope for the best. The 4 of us Monkees met for the first time as a unit during a wardrobe fitting. Looking back now, it seems kind of funny, but there we were, 4 strangers introducing ourselves to each other like we just boarded the same plane. Hello, I'm Micky Braddock. Hi, I'm Davy Jones. Nice to see you again, etc. The airplane metaphor is quite apt, actually, considering the destination, altitude, and speed of the trip we were all about to take. My first impressions of the other guys was a lasting one and hasn't really changed much over the years. Mike Nesbitt. Dry, witty sense of humor, intelligent, cool, generous, somewhat insecure, and definitely a control freak. One of the funniest men I've ever known. Peter Tork, bohemian, heart of gold, tortured, compassionate, sometimes annoying, intellectual, altruistic, and one of the kindest men I've ever known. Davy Jones, stylish, very talented, very short. Puckish, unselfish, somewhat vain, congenial, streetwise, and one of the nicest men I've ever known. It was at this time that I was informed I was going to be the drummer. I said, but I don't play drums. Bob and Bert explained to me that since Mike and Peter were already very accomplished on guitar and bass, and Davy was obviously supposed to be the cute lead singer, I had been cast as the drummer. Well, as a professional, mine was not the reason why. I had learned to ride an elephant for one series. Why not learn to play the drums for another? Anyway, I told him I couldn't play piano because when I did, it made my butt hurt. I'm going to try try this one.
Okay.
Because otherwise it's going to be hard to see. So now I'm going to put back on my cool. Yeah, now that's cool. Get my guitar here. I have not been a very prolific songwriter in my life, and I'm actually going to start out with a song I did not write. I was going to only do stuff I'd written when I came here because of the theme, but then I realized it's women who write. But I realized I'm not a woman.
Thank God.
I'm not a woman. I don't have to write. But obviously a very special tune. This is on the new CD, available in the lobby at the CD is called Remember. It's sort of a musical diary of my life with songs that meant a lot to me, that influenced me. Johnny B. Good is on there, a different version of Johnny B. Good, because that was my audition piece for the Monkees. There's songs by friends of mine, Harry Nilsson, songs that I was offered and turned down, like The Diary by David Gates. Songs like Good Morning by the Beatles, because I was at that session in England. And this one written for me. I thought love was only true infinity. Someone else could not fold me. Love's out to get me. That's the way it seems. This morning on and on. Then I saw her face. Saw her face. I'm a believer, not a trace. Down in my mind, I'm in love. I'm a believer, I couldn't leave her if I tried. Only if I tried. Saw her face. I'm a believer, I can not a trace. Doubt in my mind, I'm in love. I'm a believer, I couldn't leave her if I tried. Honey, if I tried. CD. I just always thought it was a great country tune. A lot of the songs I've written, another one I'm going to be doing for you, definitely has a country feel, because my mom was from Austin, Texas, and I grew up listening to the Sons of the Pioneers and Tennessee Ernie Ford, and a lot of great country people. This one's not a country tune, but this also influenced in a way by my mom, because she was a big band 40s singer, and I've been told, this is on the album, I've been told this I got a great compliment once from somebody that heard this and thought it a song written by like, Jimmy McHugh in the 30s or something like that. This is most of my songs are very depressing. I'm a believer it's a great tune, but most of the songs I write, like many songwriters, are, the blues or something like that, that can tend to be a little bit down and depressed. If this gets a little too depressing, these songs, let me know, and I'll sing Sugar Sugar. But this was written after a divorce. One of the divorces. It breaks my heart to say goodbye. I know that I deserve to cry. I know that time will see me through. In this meantime, all I dream about is you. Unlucky stars are in my sky. My fortune teller saw me and cried. She said that I might have to wait. My lucky ship is lost and coming in too late. Unlucky stars, unlucky stars, Venus and Mars are up in arms. If now it's time to let it go, give me some time to let you know that I adore you till the end. I couldn't stand another day without a friend. Now this one is really depressing. Was it something I said?
6 minutes left.
This is only a 5 on the depressing scale. What I got. This is one that is on the CD. Not written, written about some things, relationships, people, and moments of that in my life. Boy taught me all I need to know about living life on this spinning wheel. His advice was simple stuff. Devil's here to make it tough. Lord's around to see you pay your bill. Promised me we love each other faithfully, took eternal vows as lovers do. And one day she changed her mind, left me all alone to cry, telling me what I already knew. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation, try to make ends meet and keep the love alive, fight against all odds until the final cut, go away and find some place to cry. Had a friend, we had a deal, we couldn't lose was its appeal, gave him all I had to see it fly. One day I got a call, seems as though I'd lost it all. He was sorry, I just had to smile. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation, try to make ends meet and keep the love alive, fight against all odds until the final curtain, go away and find some place to cry. I wonder why I keep trying, must be something in my genes. Any minute now I'll see the light, realize what it means. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation, try to make ends meet and keep the love alive, fight against all odds until the final curtain, go away and find some place to cry. Go away and find some place to cry. Go away and find some place to die. Okay, so oh, I got worse than that. I got one song I'm writing that I can't even get through it without crying. It's terrible. Right. So I'm going to now, yeah, and like I said, a lot of country influence from my mom. My mom was from Texas, so there was American Indian and Irish blood, actually. And my dad was from Italy, so I'm Italian, Irish, and American Indian. So don't get me drunk, pissed off, and armed. It's called Gakky 2 Feet. I'll start by reading the sort of introduction, this is kind of for the parents. Oh, I got to put on my non-cool glasses. And I'll read this, the introduction, because it kind of explains where I was coming from when I wrote this. Since my first visit as a child to the La Brea tar pits here in Los Angeles, California, I've been fascinated with anthropology, the study of human beings and their ancestors. That fascination continued through college and exists to this day. I've often amused myself by imagining what it was like when our ancestors first discovered how to make a fire, or realized that they could fashion a tool from a bit of rock, or in the case of Gakky 2 Feet, when they started walking on 2 feet instead of 4. Current paleoanthropological theory holds that our ancestors adapted to upright walking about 4 million years ago, around the time of Australopithecus afarensis, the infamous Lucy. Bipedalism was advantageous to these early hominids as it enabled them to see farther and hopefully avoid predators, and it also freed up their hands for other uses, such as food gathering and defense. Hence, Gakky 2 Feet, my first foray into the world of anthro-mythology, a word that I also coined. We will, of course, never know exactly what happened during these defining moments in the course of human evolution, only that they certainly did happen, and who knows, it might actually have happened in precisely this way. I hope that Gakky 2 Feet is as illuminating as it is entertaining.
Story. And that's kind of how Women Who Write came to be, because I wanted the experience of being read to is something most of us haven't had since we were little kids. And that's sort of the inception. So having a children's book read to us was so lovely. Thank you so much, Micky Dolenz! We're going to do a little Q&A. I also have a discussion point that I'd like to do if we have a little time, but I don't want to spend a lot of time because what are we going to do, ladies? We are going to buy a shitload of CDs. And Rob's eating. When you're done eating, I'm going to bring you up here. A couple questions for Micky before. I'm going to start with one before I throw it out to you guys. I'm curious if there's anything that you really coveted that you didn't get.
A part?
Yeah.
Oh, like a part? Oh, many. Gosh, all kinds, let me try to think back. I mean, I can think of some recent ones. Well, I was up for the Fonz.
Oh my God!
I wanted that part. It was down to me and Henry Winkler.
Wow.
And Henry Winkler tells the story of going into the final callback, and it was just me and him, and he saw me there, and he went, "Oh, I'll never get it. Micky Dolenz is here." But he made a much better Fonz than I would have, because he really had the East Coast, kind of thing down, and I was kind of play acting at it. So he was great. But what parts that I really want? Okay. Well, recently, some big musical theater, because I've been doing a lot of musical theater parts, and there's some parts that I've been up for that. I've been trying to get the wizard in Wicked. That's something I'd really like to do. That's something I would really like to do.
And so the second part to that, and then I'll throw it out there. Did you have a passion? Are you a musician first, an actor first, a writer first? What would you say your
I started so young. There wasn't a first. Mm-hmm. I followed in my father's footsteps, and my mom followed in their footsteps, and before I can even remember. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's my first screen test. I was 6. My father's agent or somebody, it was through my dad or something. That's kind of the first thing that actually, the first time I was on stage. Well, let me finish the screen test story. That was for a movie that was going to be shot in Mexico. It never got made because the government fell or something. It's like 1951 or something. They were going to shoot it in Mexico about a little Mexican boy who discovered this bull, a big bull that had fallen from the rings of Saturn. It was kind of a science fantasy thing. And it was invisible to everybody but the little boy or something like that. But they were, of course, in those days, they were going to cast this little, white kid. They blackened my hair, they dyed my hair for the screen test, and they taught me to talk like that. I have a big bull. It's the biggest bull in the whole world. You're going to be the best bull in the whole world. Now you get shot if you did that now. But like I say, the movie was never made. It was a cute movie called The Rings of Saturn. Anyway, that's the first screen test that I remember. The first time I was ever on stage, it was at my mom's. Well, my mom told me that they were having a church Christmas party, and she said, "I'm like 4, I think. I was like 4 years old." She said, "Do you want to go and recite the night? 'Twas the night before Christmas." And I'm like 4. I'm like, okay. So she taught me 'Twas the night before Christmas, and I went out, big room, social hall, church, all these people there. I actually vaguely remember it. Nervous, of course, scared to death. Years later, I mean, I'm talking when I'm an adult. She told me it was the AA meeting. The AA Christmas party.
Oh my God.
That was my first gig. Rock and roll! So anyway, I was born into it. So there was acting, always singing since I was a little kid, singing with my mom, harmonies, acting, and then eventually getting in. Even writing. I started writing science fiction stories when I was 8 or 9 years old. I was a big science fiction fan.
And is it something you chose, or were you ushered into it, or?
No, well, it was just like following in your father's footsteps. They were never the stage mom and kind of people. There wasn't any eyes and teeth, honey. Eyes and teeth. We never lived in Beverly Hills or Hollywood. We never hung with those people. We lived in the valley, and always had like horses and chickens, and I had to go clean the pool on the Saturdays, even during Circus Boy.
Hear that, Harry?
They were very well. My dad was off the boat from Italy. I mean, right? He swam from Cuba to get here, and my mom was from Texas, and so it was very down to earth kind of family, and they kept it pretty grounded. So never forced. I mean, I remember the Circus Boy audition. I'd gone to a couple interviews. Again, my dad must have, his agent must have done it, and I was 10. And I almost didn't go. I remember my mom said, "You want to go for an interview?" And I said, "No, I'm playing baseball." And I almost didn't go. And finally, at the last moment, I decided to go. And of course, but it's always been like that for me. My dad did teach me to follow the fish. He said you can't wait around for the phone to ring. So I don't tend to do that. I tend to find, navigate my way and find something to do, rather than just wait for the phone to ring. In this business, you can't just wait around. You got to do something proactive.
Is there something that's like ringing your bell now that you're
Always.
always?
Oh. Well, it's always something, but it tends to be just a particular project, not say acting or. I must say, musical theater is a big attraction to me now. Since I did Aida and since I did Hairspray, and I'm up for a couple of things like I mentioned. I was just offered Singing in the Rain in the West End. Wow! And I'm hoping to get Wicked. I'd love to do that. They offered me the house. The part of the house. I was like, every night you gotta fall. No, but musical theater, I must say, as a I don't know, genre, whatever you call it, because I came to that rather late in life. But the Monkees essentially was musical theater on TV, a half-hour little musical comedy, on television. So I love doing musical theater, I must say. But it just depends on. It's the project. It's the content. It's the content that attracts me to something. It could be a movie or acting or writing or directing or something, but it tends to be the content that attracts me.
Who's got a question for Mickey? Go ahead, Suzanne.
Do you remember the moment where you realized how huge the Monkees was? What?
I do. Yeah, I do. We started filming in the summer '66, and the show went on the air in September of that year. And we were incommunicado. I mean, we were filming 10, 12 hours a day, every day, 5 days a week, and then rehearsing to go on the road, and then recording at night. I would go in the studio at night after filming for 10 hours and record 2 or 3 lead vocals.
Oh my God!
Those first two or three albums were all done. I would go in and do, like, in one session, the lead vocal for Clarksville, Stepping Stone.
Oh my God!
And something else in one session, and then have to overdub and do the backgrounds and all that. It was intense. So the show went on the air, and we heard rumors that people were watching, and it wasn't being canceled. But we were really in the eye of the hurricane, and for us, we were sort of protected a little bit, cosseted, and working 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Very seldom getting out of the house. Well, Christmas came around of that year. The show had been on like 3 months or so. And I remember we got a week off, a hiatus for Christmas. And my family moved up to San Jose, and I jumped in my car with my Christmas shopping list to go down to the mall in the valley that I'd shopped at all my life there, and go get my shopping done and drive up to San Jose for Christmas with my family. And I jump in the car, get down to the mall, and I get out, grab my list, and I go through the big sliding glass doors. And all of a sudden, I hear all these people screaming and running at me. I thought it was a fire. And I'm standing there holding the door open. That's right! Don't panic! And all of a sudden, I realized they're running at me. And I'm like, shit! I had to go back in my car and leave. I was pissed off, and I gave my list to my roadie, and he had to go do the Christmas shopping for me.
Nancy.
Why the name change for the Monkees? The
From
last
what?
name.
From Braddock.
Oh, I don't know. It's a long and I don't think very interesting story. My stage name, excuse me, when I was in Circus Boy was Micky Braddock. And the story my mom, I remember telling me years ago, was something like, first of all, they didn't think Dolenz was a very American, white bread name, and I had bleached blonde white hair. Also, my father was quite well-known actor. He was European, Italian, and he had a series on the air at the same time called Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh yeah.
He was the Count of Monte Cristo.
Wow.
So between that, thinking that it was going to become a dynasty or something. So something to do with that, and I was named after a great uncle or great uncle of somebody who was General Braddock in the French and Indian War.
Wow.
And was famous for losing a big battle. But the very early monkey press still said Micky Braddock, and there's still some early photos that say Micky Braddock. And then I don't know what happened. For some reason, I just decided, what's the point or something, and just made it Dolenz.
How long did it take you to learn to play drums?
Well, I was a musician. I started out playing piano, but my main instrument was Spanish guitar when I was a kid. I played classical, Segovia and Villalobos, and I would take my guitar, and I was getting pretty good at it. I'd played for a number of 4 or 5 years, and I started in high school. I started going to parties and kids, and I'd sit there and I'd play Segovia, and I discovered pretty quickly that the girls like Kingston Trio a lot better. Segovia. Do you know Tom Dooley? Oh, I'll learn it. So I started doing Kingston Trio and folk music, that early kind of folk music. And then that became, sort of rock and roll. So I read music. I studied it so I could read music. So when they said, you're the drummer, I said, okay, sure. And they started the lessons immediately. And I practiced a lot, and I took a lot of lessons. And it was months and months. But I read music, so, I wasn't starting from scratch.
But you're a great drummer. I mean, my friend Dan Hickey, who's a world-class drummer, I mean, he said you were his inspiration, you were why he became a drummer, you are still his favorite drummer to this day. I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing. You came to it late in life, and you did it quickly. That's...
Yeah,
But late in life, considering where he started at 3.
Yeah, I was late in life. I'd already had 2 careers by then.
You had such a foundation in music. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but in all respect to really great drummers. And there's a great drummer on this CD out there, Vinny Colaiuta. I mean, I am not a great drummer. I play what I play, and I play it pretty good. And the stuff that I wrote and the stuff that we learned and we played, Mike wrote especially, I play that stuff really, really good. But I'm not a studio cat. I can't go and show up somewhere and sit in and play, this stuff.
You're Micky Dolenz. You don't need to do that. Go ahead, Catherine. I'll get to you next, Terry.
I'm from Iran, and do you know that your serial was showed on TV? And it was dubbed in Farsi.
I heard that. You're right. Somebody told me.
I loved it.
Yeah, I haven't seen an episode of that in Farsi. I'd love to see it. I saw it in Japanese. Oh, David! And my voice, the guy that did me, I met him. He was a guy, a very famous Japanese actor, a lovely man. He did a lot of animation and voiceover stuff. And he talked like that all the time.
Excellent. Okay, Terry, one more question, then we're going to buy CDs. But we're also going to shoot it back to Rob and see if he has any. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so first of all, I think you have one of the best voices in the history of pop.
I will clap for that.
So my question is, aside from being a fan, what was it like to be a musician in a recording studio with the Beatles?
Well, I never recorded with them.
No, but when you were there, when they were recording Good Morning, Good Morning.
I was just winging my pants. I mean, I'll tell you the short story.
Tell the story, because I read the story about you dressing up.
I went to England on a press junket to promote the upcoming tour, and the publicity people got Paul and I together, and that photo's in the book actually, for this thing, Monkey Meets Beatle. And I was a huge fan. Of course, they'd already moved on. You know, our fans were almost the next generation. You know, but he was very respected. He was lovely. He was, he brought me into his home. We had dinner at his house in Maida Vale, and he was just lovely. And I'm literally like winging my pants, trying to be so cool. And I had my autograph book. Anyway, we sit and we smoked this stuff that smelled like burning weeds. Still don't know what that. Anyway, he says that we're having a session down at the studio, Abbey Road Studios, for this new album called Sergeant Something.
Oh my God!
I don't know whatever happened to that album. It was really good. You never know. Anyway, they send a limo for me. I get in the limo. I go down to Abbey Road Studios the next day, and I don't know. I guess I was expecting, some sort of crazy Beatlemania, love-in, be-in, freak-out, fun-fest, crazy psycho jello thing. So I dressed accordingly. I had paisley bell-bottoms, tie-dyed underwear, and my hair up in beads and glasses. I looked like a cross between Ronald McDonald and Charlie Manson. And I'm 3 sheets to the wind, and I'm just like ready to party. And it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I show up and I walk in, and it looks like my high school gymnasium. It's nobody there except the 4 guys sitting in folding chairs, fluorescent lighting, and they're just playing. Chunk, 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 chunk. And I'm like, where's the party? Where's the girls? I must have looked like such an idiot. And John Lennon looks up and he says, "Hey, monkey man." That's what he called me. "Hey, monkey man, you want to hear what we're working on?" And that was better.
Yeah, that was really good.
And he points up to George Martin in the booth, which is above the floor in that studio. And George Martin, in the middle of the day, is wearing a 3-piece suit. They had to wear suits. All the EMI, BBC, all those employees had to wear 3-piece suits. And he's wearing a 3-piece suit. There was a 4-track tape recorder, and he pushes the button, and I hear "Good morning, good morning." Wow. And I realized, and we sat down and had tea, and we talked a little bit, and I'm just. But a couple of things I noticed. One was that I learned is that, first of all, they sat down and had tea for 20 minutes, and then John said, "All right, lads, down the mines," and they went back to work. And I realized, in talking to others over the years, that's how they managed to come up with that incredible work of, library, that incredible life's work was, they were northern lads going down the mines. And I gathered that John was really the slave driver, he was in the studio, lads, down the mines. That's one of the things that I noticed at that time. That's how they managed to come up with that body of work in such a relatively very short period of time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Did you ever actually get Paul's autograph?
Anybody have a quick question for Rob? I have one for you, Rob.
Yes.
How did you become an actor? What was the decision to become an actor, and then how did you transition from actor to musician?
I first have to tell my only Beatles story.
Okay, good.
You were so charming, that was so great.
Wait, Rob, come up here. Come sit up here.
I love listening to what you have to say. You're singing, really. Now I want to cast him. I'm going to try to figure out what to cast him.
Vicky, stay.
My only good Beatles story is I was at a party that Harry Nilsson at a studio in New York in the early 80s.
Oh boy.
And there was Ringo. And I had to say something to him, but I didn't know what, you know, but I did, and he was nervous. He could just tell he was like, you know, just shy because everyone was coming up. So I just turned to him and I said, he was smoking, and I said, hey man, you got an extra cigarette? And he went, yeah, here you go. And he handed me a cigarette and walked away. That's my Beatles story.
So tell us.
What was the question? How did I become an actor?
What led you to acting, and then how did you transition from acting to music?
Well, music was first, and I say that I played drums, and very well, you know, was inspired by Micky, and it informs everything I do to this day. Everything I do comes down to rhythm. Everything, you know, writing, acting, directing, you know, obviously music.
Birth control.
It's all about rhythm.
And like that, but
drums first, and then it just was this little epiphany I had. I don't know why. I was watching the movie Grease, and and I said to my friend, you know, we left the theater. I'd never thought about acting. I said, you know, I'm going to be an actor. And he said, well, I didn't know that. And I was like, oh yeah. And that was it. I had this like raison d'etre. And
how old were you?
I was 15. And I was really aimless and really headed for bad times. And that gave me purpose and a focus.
And how long did it take till you were an actor?
Well, in my mind, I was an actor that minute. You know? And there's something about that, you know, it was that kind of a fake it till you make it thing. And, you know, I believed that I was an actor. I ended up in New York City just before I turned 18 and started studying. I had about 10 years in the theater before Northern Exposure. But the theater was a big, you know, big part of, and still is part of my life. I want to do a musical too. Maybe we should do it one together.
Do one together. All right, I want to ask them more questions, but let's do it while we're buying CDs and books. So let's do it, ladies. Please help me say